quorum. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of March 15th?
So moved.
Okay, by Mr. Bove. Is there any questions, comments, or corrections?
No.
No. Sounds like everybody's good. Can we do roll call? So Bove,
Here.
yes. Clark,
Here.
Terenides?
Here.
Yeah, I'm calling roll call for a vote. So
Oh,
you're
yes.
voting to
Bove.
approve
Bove,
the
yes.
minutes, right?
Yes,
Okay.
for the minutes.
So Matthew is not a commissioner, right? Flynn? Mr. Flynn?
Flynn. I don't say Flynn on the list. Oh, there he is.
He's up there. Yeah, he's up there. If you
Right.
go to the right.
He's muted.
Okay. Mr. Flynn, we can't hear you. Raise your hand for a yay. Thank you. We got you. That's an affirmative. And Mr. Keegan? Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Keegan is a yes too. I think that passes you. Oh, I'm sorry. Edwin Camacho.
I'll abstain. I just logged on.
Okay. We're just approving meeting minutes, but,
Yeah, I have. Then I'll abstain because I don't think I was at the last one.
and also fine as a yes. So
Yes.
it passes with one abstention. Okay, you got that, Daleen? I'll assume she does, or she doesn't, she'll see it on the recording. Number 3, authorize.
I heard you.
Thank you, Daleen.
You're welcome.
Authorize the chair, vice chair, of water pollution control, execute an agreement with Kovacs Construction Corporation, in the amount of $4 million, $5,750 for the comprehensive pump station upgrade. Is there a motion to approve?
So approved.
Okay, that was Mr. Clark.
Right.
Is there any presentation from staff?
Yes, sir. So on March 18th, the WPCA received 3 bids for the 4 pump station rehabilitation project. Kovacs was the low bidder at just over $4 million. We had 2 other bids by J.A. Rosa Construction of $5.8 million and some change, and the Associated Construction Company over $5.1 million. The engineer's estimate was over $5 million. Nickerson and also Del Rey had looked at it, but they did not submit bids. Kovacs put a lot of time and effort into this, evaluating this project for bidding, and put in a very solid bid that we're very happy with. We have a March 23rd letter from Wright Pierce, including the board package. They had reviewed all the numbers, the bid docs. They're familiar with Kovacs on other projects, working for other municipalities. Very solid company. And staff's recommendation to the board is to authorize the chairman or vice chairman to enter into an agreement to proceed. It's, like I say, it's a 4 pump station project. It's the 5 Mile River. It's the old Trolleyway, Woodward Avenue, and Karen Drive pump stations. These are 4 of the top 6 pump stations that need to be rehabilitated. The other 2, Keeler Brook, is a separate project, and 4 Point, we're working with the state right now to look at doing some pump improvements there.
Any questions from staff? Any questions from staff? I'm sorry, from the board, for staff.
Have we worked with Kovacs before?
Not recently, but the city has about 15 years ago on some other pump station work. So it's been a while, but Kovacs, Nickerson, and Del Rey are like the top 3 locally for treatment plant pump station projects.
And what was their bid again?
Just over $4 million.
The engineers, you said priced it out at, or estimated it to be more like 5 million.
That's correct.
Are we concerned about that? About the 4 million? About them possibly being 1 million short of what's needed?
We were a little conservative because of COVID. We didn't know how the pricing would come in. So we were definitely a little bit conservative on the engineer's estimate.
All right, so that's not, so the 4 million is, you're comfortable with that you think the engineer is overestimated by $1 million?
That's correct. Kovacs, there's some bypass piping or bypass pumping required. And Kovacs has some creative ideas to keep those costs down. So we had Wright Pierce contact them, talk to them about it.
Hey, Ralph, following up on that thought, J.A. Rosa was almost $6 million. Did they not want the job, or how did they go over by that amount?
The other two that bid were not that familiar with the contractors, and they've never bid on a City of Norwalk project before. In fact, I think it's the associate construction company. Wright Pierce isn't even familiar with them. So it's hard to say. Again, there's a lot of pricing depending on timing, workload for the companies, and the COVID factor. It's hard to predict.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the second what Ralph said too. The bids were nice spread between 4 and 6 million. And the other way to look at it conversely is that the engineer's estimate came right in the middle. Engineers are not estimators. We don't claim to be or try to play one in real life, but it's the best planning tool that we have without actually having an estimator on staff. So I will commend the staff for always getting very, very close, closer than most people that I've seen before. Sometimes you get horrendous budgets, estimates that are just totally off the wall. And Ralph's right. It comes down to the individual contractor. How hungry were they? Is it a backlog? Are they just throwing a number to have a presence in the municipality? They just want to stay active. 4 to 6 million range, and we estimated 5. I think that's solid.
What's the, typically with a contract, you get, they're like 20% overrun or something like that. What's the plan in the event that they in fact are short?
Number 4.
Yes. We do have a item 4 on the agenda is to authorize myself to issue up to change orders not to exceed $200,000.
Got you. Okay.
So there is contingency for that, but you're right. I mean, it could be anywhere from 10 to 20%. I mean, 20% overruns pretty high, but it could be in that 5 to 10% range. Absolutely. Our contingency will cover for that.
Right. I concur. 5 to 10% is the norm for these type of projects. We don't anticipate many unknowns. We did our homework. We did environmental testing on piping for disposal. So we have a pretty good idea of the exact cost. What we've had with similar pump station projects is that we've added scope of work to the contract. And that's where we may be upwards of the 10% change order.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If it helps the board, I can say that I've worked with Kovacs 30 years ago and completed a job within the last 6 months with them here in Darien. As Ralph said, they are one of the more reputable people who is local. And on a couple of our projects, they did come up with some very creative ideas, which allowed them to save money that nobody else came up with, if that helps you.
Yep. Thank you.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Any more questions? Nothing? Everybody's good. Okay, so we'll call the question. All in favor, Bove,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Terranites,
Yes.
Flynn. Mr. Flynn, is he waving his hand? I got him.
That's correct, Chairman.
He's raising his hand.
Did he wave his hand? I didn't see it. Thank you, Mr. Flynn.
Okay.
Mr. Keegan,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Camacho,
Yes.
Ostafine is a yes. Thank you. That passes unanimously. Item number 4, authorize the Director of Public Works to issue orders on contract to Kovacs Construction Corporation for the comprehensive pump station upgrade project for an amount not to exceed $200,000. Is there a motion to?
So moved.
By Mr. Bove. Any further discussion or presentation from staff?
No further discussion.
Everybody understand that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Ready to call the question again on that one? Um, all in favor, Mr. Bove,
Yes.
Clark,
Here, yes,
Mr. Terranites,
yes,
Mr. Flynn. Mr. Flynn waved his hand for the record. Mr. Keegan,
yes,
Mr. Camacho,
Yes.
and Mr. Ossifan is also a yes. Thank you. I think that takes care of the business portion of the meeting. It does. Contract operation reports?
Good evening, everybody.
Evening, Mr. Marcin.
Good evening. Nice to see everyone this evening. I'll give you a quick report, and as always, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. For the month of March, it was a very good month. We did remain in our severity level 2 for COVID operations, but we're pretty much back to normal staffing, and we continue to use personal protective equipment, social distancing, and disinfection procedures remain in effect. But we've been case-free for a while here and are back to our normal operations, which is excellent. The facility recovered well. If you remember last month, we talked about a process upset that we had related to the sodium bisulfite internal spill. Matt and his team did an outstanding job adjusting the facility into what we would call a full aeration mode. So we basically turned on as much air as we could within reason throughout the plant. And that allowed our nitrifying bacteria to rapidly regrow. And we had good numbers by the middle of March, and by the end of March, we had really good numbers. And as a result, we were able to keep that monthly average on track with the good performance we've had historically. So it was a good job by our team, and a good experience seeing how long it took to get the biological life back after an upset like that. So that was great. Our collection team continued to ramp up. We were able to complete 1.43 miles of sewer cleaning and about 1.6 miles of TV inspection. We also did about over 5.5 miles of SL rat and manhole inspections. So it was a productive month for those guys. The centrifuge installation continues. We're on our final punch list. In addition to the final installation of the odor control systems, the masons are on site this week. They're finishing the center block wall to isolate off the centrifuge area, and then the scrubber is scheduled to be delivered the end of April. And hopefully, if all goes well, by the first week of May or second week of May, we'll have the odor control systems fully interconnected and operating for that project, which will be great. The unit continues to run well. We had 27% average. We actually had a couple of days where we were making 30% cake, which is very, very good by centrifuge standards. The industrial pretreatment program continued in March. We did over 68 inspections of the industries and sampled a lot of those industries. It's nice to see a lot of restaurants ramping up, and business is starting to build out in the restaurant community. So that was a positive thing. And our inspectors working closely, but also understandingly with these businesses as they start to really ramp back up. And we continue to receive steppage from Stanford during the month as they continue their construction activities. So for regulatory events, the plant was in compliance with all permit limits and contract limits in March. As a result of the good nitrogen recovery, we had an average of 551 pounds for the month, and that decreased our annual average down to 553. So trending in a better direction. Hopefully our numbers will be even better this year than they were last year. All of the state reporting was completed, as well as the quarterly ATMR sampling. We also submitted the Tier 2 hazardous material inventory form, which is required on March 1st of each year. Process-wise, as I mentioned, things were pretty smooth. The flow was substantially down. We were back in the 11.3 MGD range after some pretty high flows we saw in January and February from the weather. And as I mentioned, our nitrogen removal has been excellent towards the end of the month, and continues in April. You also have in your executive summary the continued GIS maps of the tracking of the work that we've done. We have our new GIS technician who's been working with our teams to develop these maps, and these are customized for the board. So if you have any input or you'd like to see different color patterns or additional information on these maps, these are designed for your use, and they're very easy to edit and mod it through the city's GIS platform. So hopefully they're helpful and they can give you an idea of the progress that we're making on those tasks. That's about it for operational items. I do have an update on sort of another item, unless anyone has any questions about the plant operations. Okay. I wanted to give you an update. Some of you may have heard of track the business, but over the last 8 months, there has been some discussion about talks between Veolia and Suez and possible merger of those companies. And there was an announcement on April 12th of this year that the board of directors of both companies have reached an agreement in principle on a merger between the two companies. So there's another meeting that'll be held on May 14th, and there'll be more details provided at that meeting. But right now, it looks like we are making preparations to merge the Suez and Veolia groups in North America. And that's an exciting, but also a big change that we'll all keep you posted on. And you can be absolutely assured, we have an excellent contract between the city and Suez, and that'll all be, honored and completely transferable. We've also got an excellent team here on the ground that's part of that contract, and you can be absolutely assured that no matter what changes take place, that our team's going to remain here on the ground, and we're going to continue to do a great job for you guys. So we'll keep you posted, but you probably hear about it if you follow the trades or if you follow business. It's a pretty big deal as far as French business goes. And as I said, I'll give you more information as it becomes available. That's all I have. I'm open to questions if anyone has any.
Questions? You, Orchard Street, that's you, right?
Yes.
Did we line it? Did we rebuild it?
We have the lining scheduled. I'd have to double check if it actually got completed. Ralph, I might defer to you on that one. Don't think we've got that lining done yet, right?
No, John. The Suez team is still doing its homework. There's some old sanitary sewer lines on Butler Street that the Suez is in the process of cleaning and televising, because the plan ultimately is how to divert the wastewater during the lining process. Right. So they're working with Green Mountain's working on the scope, and at the same time, Suez is continuing to do field investigation to provide as much information to Green Mountain to get the best price possible and develop a good plan for not just the lining, but also bypass pumping of the sewage. So once all that comes together, probably next month, we'll have more to report to the board as far as schedule for that work.
Okay, in the meantime, the section of pipe has been replaced. You're operational. There never was a bypass. I'm just interested how this is going to turn out. I know you have an egg-shaped pipe, and it's going to go round to egg or egg to egg, and there's some special lining. So that's still in the works.
That is correct.
Thanks. Anybody else have any questions?
Nope.
I guess the only thing I want to add to John's comments about Veolia and Suez possibly merging, Anthony, Chris, and I will continue to work with the Suez project team and understand what's happening on a monthly basis. This month was didn't catch us off guard, but it's moving along a little bit faster than we anticipated. John's boss was actually down. I spoke to him last week about what to look forward to. What do we anticipate? Obviously, once there's an official, proceed of merging of the two companies, eventually there's going to be contract language that will need to be modified. We can ask, we can put in our additional requests at that time to keep John and his team on site for 3-5 more years. And there could be other things that Anthony and Chris and I will discuss to possibly add to the contract to strengthen our, our team here at the site for whoever's, what the future brings.
Yeah, I agree, Ralph. I'm not supposed to talk too much about it, but I'm actually encouraged. It's a small business. Veolia is an excellent company too. I think merging is just going to duplicate the resources you guys are going to have available to you. So I do see it as a good thing.
Any other questions? No other questions? Moving on to 6 reports.
Yep. Item 6A is the typical munis report in the board package. Anybody has any questions on any of the line items? The only thing that on the revenue side is the Wilton sewer bill. And right now we haven't collected anything because the bill just went out. And we actually have a copy in the information copy section at the end of the agenda. Next item, item 6B, discussion on sewer use fee appeal for 120 Newtown Avenue. And there is a letter from Chris Polidoro, the property owner, to the WPCA chairman and board of directors, including the board package. Long story short, he purchased the property 7 years ago, and at that time was told that he was on city sewer by the seller. And recently he came to find out that he's now on septic, and he's reaching out to the board to ask for sewer use fees, reimbursement, and or connection fees. So Chris was actually supposed to, we had shared the agenda with him and told him to, attend the meeting so he can discuss the letter. Larry, I don't see him. I don't know if you see anybody from the public that could be, waiting to come in.
No, there's no one from the public.
Anybody either?
So what staff has done, we've been working with Darren Callahan from the city's Corp Council, along with Vero Law, and we'll have more to report to the board next month. But they are looking at the most current state statutes on how to address sewer use fees versus taxes. Typically, the city's state statutes for taxes is reimbursement of up to 3 years maximum. So the legal team is looking into, like I said, the legislation along with other cases. So that way we can give the board guidance on how to proceed with future sewer use fee appeals, such as 120 Newtown Avenue.
I noticed that it's not on the agenda as an action item, so you're not looking for action tonight. Is that correct, Ralph?
That's correct. It's discussion only for the board.
Okay, and the board, this board actually has some familiar experience with something like this. Things might have changed. There might be new laws, but I believe it was Bob White where we ran into a almost identical situation, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So far, what the legal team has said or has informed us of is sewer use fees, keep that in one pot, and connection fees is a separate issue, not to mix the two at this time.
Right, and the ratepayer is also looking for forgiveness of connection fees as well as forgiveness of the 7 years user fees that he paid. Correct?
That is what the letter is requesting. That is correct. Chair.
Thanks. Does anybody have any questions?
The other similar situation involving, I guess, sort of an identical set of facts. Was that also a question where there should not have been a single fee charged because there was in fact septic, not sewer? Or was that a situation where they just overpaid?
That person was not connected to the sewer. They were being charged user fees, and then they eventually did connect to the sewer. And Ralph, correct me if I'm wrong, we forgave 3 years, and I think we allowed the connection fee, which is probably not the advice of our council now, but
Correct.
I don't think we did anything illegal. We just might not have listened to
Mhm.
council's advice. But we gave him back 3 years, and I think we gave him connection fee too. Is that right,
Mhm.
Ralph?
That is, I recall that is the same, Chairman.
And we're leaning now towards 3 years and not giving back the connection fee, but they're looking into it. Is that correct?
Correct, sir.
Thank you. Any other
Got it.
questions on that? I guess there's no action required right now. Mr. Keegan?
Yeah, I have a question. How do you know is there a process or an inspection? How would you know if someone is connected to the sewer?
That's pretty easy. You can throw a dye in the toilet and see if it shows up out in the street. But in this case, they hired a company called Wind River, and they actually cambered the
Right.
sewer, and they ended up
I-
in a septic tank.
Yeah, I understand that, but in this fellow's case, he was under the impression he was connected, and we were charging him as if he was connected. Well, who in the first place said he was connected? And
That's
does the city
interesting.
have?
I don't think anybody knows that. That's a very interesting question because the house was sold to him, and it's one thing if a realtor lies to you, right? But he went down to the city hall and actually looked up his records, apparently, according to him, and he was told by city staff that he was connected, and that would tend to ring true because he was getting a bill. So
Right.
who knows
So-
who did it? I don't know who did it. But
Oh, we were still sending him a bill. That's the part
yeah,
that I can't wrap my arms around.
somebody started it, and once it went down that road, nobody would figure to change it. I can't answer how it happened, but
I
Do we
mean,
know how it
possibility.
happened? I'm sorry, Mr. Keegan, it's still, you still have the floor.
I'm fine, thank you.
So in the other case that you mentioned, was there a determination made how that sort of a mistake was made on the city side originally?
I have no idea how that happened, and I don't think we ever did find out as a commission what happened. Ralph, did you ever figure out who signed them up as being our customer?
No. There's a lot of potentials when you go back in history, when the city extended sanitary sewers, may have assessed properties to connect, or what I should say is they assessed properties to install the sanitary sewer main on the street. It was then up to the property owners to hire individual contractors to connect. So in the city's mind, is you paid for the assessment on the sewer main that you're now going to be connecting to the sanitary sewer. It's just whoever the property owner may not have followed up or want to save that expense, put that connection off for a couple of years and just never connected. So there's a lot of unknown, every case is a case by case, and we don't always know why, from the 70s or 80s or even the early 90s, what may have happened at the time.
So it's likely that there are other cases out there like that no one knows about.
True, there could be. I mean, the cases of people that are paying for city sewer and still on septic, the sewer fee has been out since 2000. So it's been 21 years now. So majority of those people have come forward and said, nope, I'm on septic, getting billed erroneously. And the documentation and the changes have been made.
Got you.
Is there any other questions? Any other comments, concerns?
I think this is sort of strange to me because dealing with real estate on an ongoing basis, first of all, 7 years, you would think that something would have happened to a septic system prior to 7 years. They're usually pumped every 2 years. And when you're buying real estate locally, there's a seller's disclosure that's supposed to disclose septic or sewer connections. There's an MLS that discloses if the property is connected or not connected. So it's kind of baffling how this could have happened and then gone on for 7 years.
As far as I know, Ralph, jump in and stop me. The previous owner was also paying user fees, right, Ralph? I mean, the guy bought the house and the previous owner had paid fees and he just took over the fees when he bought the house. Is that correct, Ralph?
I haven't gone back beyond the 7 years, so I can't confirm.
Okay, but it's unlikely that it's a plausible scenario that this guy bought the house and the previous owner represented that he was on sewer because he had been paying bills too, right?
Correct.
It would be very hard to convince somebody that you're on sewer when the city didn't have any records of that.
It would seem to me that the average homeowner, or maybe not the average homeowner, but a fair number of homeowners don't really know what their tax bill includes. You know, if it includes
Oh.
sewer, if it includes what, you know, whatever, garbage pickup, you know, there are a good number of people don't really think about that. So I could see someone paying the bill or a bank paying the bill without anyone really thinking twice, even someone who knows they have sewer.
I think you're absolutely correct. When I bought my house, they said it was on sewer. I too went to the city. They said it was on sewer. I still went to their house and dropped some dye in the toilet before I bought it. And then I popped a manhole. But that's the only way you can really be sure. But I think you're right. The average person who doesn't have a manhole hook in their truck and a bottle of dye will probably take the city's word for it and the previous buyer. And there are records that support that.
Yeah, but even people that know they have septic will continue to make that payment because they don't really aren't really focused on the particulars of their tax bill. I mean, in some cases.
Yeah, that's
It seems to
true.
me.
It's kind of all in there. It's not like a separate bill. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So far, this is my second one since I've been on the commission. So to your question, I think, yeah, maybe there's another one out there. Probably a couple more.
Mhm.
Any other questions, comments?
Nope.
No? Everybody's good? I guess we'll have a month to think about it. So where are we? 6C1.
Yes. Financial model. Included in the board package is task order number 1 with Woodard and Curran. Anthony and myself, we reached out to Woodard and Curran to provide us with a scope of work to do a financial model. Years ago, the Norwalk WPCA had a financial model that was originally prepared by Arcadis, the Red Oak division. And we had that model for many years. It was very robust, predicted out 20, 30 years, but really focused in on the 5-year look ahead. And we're looking to recreate not that exact model, but what other municipalities are doing. Woodward and Curran has a very strong financial team, and it's going to really, with the various capital projects and operating accounts that the WPCA is managing, it's really going to help justify spending on how, when do we need the bond and any clean water funds that we can go after. It's all going to put all that information together. So it's going to be a very useful planning tool moving forward, especially with potential consent order with the state of Connecticut for collection. We have treatment plant projects that we're looking to do and trying to identify and prioritize all the work, looking out 5, 10, 20 years. Does anybody have any questions on it? All right. Next item is item 2, collection sanitary sewer system rehabilitation, various locations. And this is our Green Mountain Pipeline Services contract. Right now, them along with the AJ Penna is down by Witch Lane and Old Trolleyway. And we're in the process of replacing some critical manholes. It's about a week's worth of project, manhole replacement and some piping. And once that's completed, Green Mountain will come in and further line that location going closer to MLK. So that's where they are currently. There's some spot lining or miscellaneous lining throughout the city still, some smaller areas. And we're also working right now with them on lining of Smith Street from Wall to Moody's Lane. That's a pretty challenging lining project because it's about a 4-week period and it's just going to impact the Wall Street area. So we're working with the critical stakeholders like Head of the Harbor. We met with the museum folks, which is 2 East Wall Street, in order to go across their property with the bypass piping. And we're working with Josh Morgan from the mayor's office for that work. So this project is, it's going to come to an end a little bit later this summer, but things have been really good. So it's about, all told, it's a little bit over $5 million, almost 6, actually 5.5, almost 6 million with the change orders that we've added. Any questions? Item 3, collection Belden and Brunel Gravity Sewer. This is a relocation of the gravity main on Brunel and Belden Avenue. Currently, the Yankee Doodle Garage and adjacent to the Pizza Place, Subway, Transit District properties tie into the sanitary sewer main across the street. That sewer main runs underneath the parking garage and the Avalon properties towards the river. Problem is long-term operation and maintenance of that line. It's just not possible. Already the Yankee Doodle Garage and the Pizza Place, their laterals, the way they're configured, catches all the rags and other debris and grease and ends up backing up. So it's been on our hotspot list for quite some time. So we went out to bid, and last Thursday we received bids. The plan is to put a couple new manholes and redirect their laterals out to Belden Avenue to the main there. We'll have that next month. Currently, we're reviewing the 2 bids that were received, but the apparent low bid right now is about $178,000 for a company out of Stanford. The other bid we received was about $300,000. So we'll have that next month for the board for discussion and to enter into a contract. Item 4, flow metering. So currently we have through Brown and Caldwell, our consultant for the collection system, we're doing we have 40 flow meters throughout the collection system. And we started the end of March and we're going to go through the end of May. And what we're doing is we're trying to collect flow data, especially during wet weather, to update our hydraulic model for the collection system. And this information is critical to develop if we have any capacity concerns in the collection system. Also, we're going to be gathering data from P&Z on future development and understanding how that's going to impact our collection system. And all this information will go into a long-term master plan that we can develop capital projects for the next 20 years and proceed. So this will also tie into the financial model, knowing priorities and future planning for funding. Next item, number 5, we already talked about it earlier, but it's the 5-mile Old Trolley Cairn Drive and Woodward Avenue pump stations. Like you said, that's Kovacs. It was the low bid for that construction project. And we're looking, the Suez team and myself is looking for them to start the project and upgrade these pump stations. Item 6, at the treatment plant, SCADA upgrade phase. This is enhanced security along with remote monitoring of mobile SCADA. So last week, John showed his phone. John, myself, and actually the chief, we have and Matt, we can see the SCADA at the treatment plant on our mobile devices now. So it's in demo mode. We only have 3 of the 5 screens developed by Aaron Associates. We're just right now is to give them feedback on what we like, what we don't like, but it's great. We look at the overview screen and we can see which pumps are running, what are the flow rates, what are the wet well levels. We have everything that we need to look at. And if there's any questions, the team can call the operators and get in more detail. One of the other screens that's currently in production is the remote pump station screen. So we'll have all 25 pump stations on the screen, and that same thing, we'll be able to see the pumps, which ones are running, flow rates, if there's a flow meter, emergency power, normal power, or also the wet well levels. And it's going to help the management team really during wet weather, no matter where we are, that we have access now. So we're very excited, and we're moving forward with finalizing this project as well. The last thing is at the treatment plant, we're electrical infrastructure improvements, phase 1, which is we're actually raising all electrical wiring and conduit onto a support structure above the water level. Currently, from the early 90s, everything was installed below the grading, and it's submerged. And the conduit leaks, water gets in, and we have a lot of electrical shortages. That's critical for our DO analyzers, our mixers, our internal recycle pumps. So we're at 90% design right now to go out to bid, and we're going to raise all electrical above in all 5 tanks. That'll provide us with structural infrastructure that's going to allow the plant to grow over the next 30 years. Once phase 1 is completed, Suez will be coming in with new BNR online analyzers and running that equipment on top of the supports that we're installing. And then the next phase 2 will be looking at replacing the aeration tank blowers and the electrical infrastructure inside the solids handling building. I guess any questions to any of the WPCA project discussion items? All right.
Yep.
Item D, sewer use bills and appeals to date is $29,907. And then information copies, we have our public notice from the approved sewer use fees. Keep in mind, there was a 0% rate increase, and also the registration fees for the food establishments and industrial users was waived. And the last item is the Town of Wilton 2021 sewer bill, which came in at $686,158. And that was just sent out by the finance department the other day, April 14th.
Are there any questions on anything here or not in here that anybody would like to discuss or ask? No? Oh, I'd like to apologize for starting the meeting a couple minutes late. I did not know there was a quorum. I thought it was just Mr. Bove and I. So hearing no further questions, is there a motion to adjourn the Norwalk WPCA regular meeting of Monday, April 19th, 2021?
So moved.
By Mr. Bove, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it looks unanimous. Thank you very much. I'll
Thank
see
you.
guys in May.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye, everybody.